The difference between a predator and prey is often just a matter of perspective. In the heart of New York City, inside a restaurant shimmering with wealth and power, five predators walked in to claim the biggest prize of all, billionaire tech mogul Alastair Finch. They were professional, ruthless, and they had accounted for everything. His bodyguards, the police response time, every exit. But they made one fatal miscalculation. They overlooked the waitress clearing their table, a woman named Catherine Pierce. They saw a servant, a ghost in an apron. They had no idea they were walking into her cage, not theirs. The air in the gilded cage was thick with the scent of money. For Catherine Pierce, it was the smell of a life she observed but never touched. Her existence here was one of quiet efficiency, a series of precise movements choreographed to the rhythm of clinking glasses and hushed conversations. She was a ghost in a black apron, refilling water, clearing plates, and disappearing into the background so seamlessly that the patrons rarely registered her presence. Kate moved through it all with an economy of motion that bordered on unnerving. Her steps were silent, her hands steady. Her gaze, however, was never still. She saw everything. The tremor in the hand of the young banker, the way the woman at table 12 subtly slid her wedding ring off before her companion arrived. These were her entertainment, a distraction from the low, constant hum of vigilance that was etched into her very DNA. She had been working at the Gilded Cage for 11 months. It was the longest she had stayed in one place in over 5 years. Here she was just Kate, the quiet waitress who was surprisingly good at remembering complex orders. No one knew the woman she used to be, the woman whose hands were trained for things far more permanent than carrying a tray of champagne flutes. The tea precisely 8 o'clock. The delicate balance of the room shifted. The front door swung open, and Alastair Finch strode in as if he owned the very air the other patrons were breathing. Finch was a titan of the tech world, the celebrated CEO of Ethereum Dynamics. In person, he was tall, impeccably dressed in a custom Tom Ford suit, radiating an aura of impatient genius. His sharp, angular face was set in a permanent scowl of dissatisfaction. Flanking him were two men built like refrigerators, their expensive suits failing to conceal the hardware they carried beneath. A third man, leaner, with the alert, predatory eyes of a hawk, moved just ahead. Robert Henderson, Finch's head of security. The maitre d' led Finch's party to table 1, a secluded booth in the corner. It was Kate's section. The usual, Finch said, not as a request, but as a command. Catherine will be taking care of you this evening. Kate approached the table. Good evening, Mr. Finch. Can I start you with some water? Finch didn't look up. Scotch. McAllen, 25. Neat. Henderson's eyes swept over Kate, cataloging her in less than a second. Female, non-threatening, part of the scenery. The dismissal was total. To be underestimated was to be unseen. To be unseen was to be safe. As Kate turned to leave, Finch spoke again. And you, waitress. Yes, sir. He finally lifted his eyes. Don't hover. I require efficiency, not attentiveness. Bring the scotch, take the order, and then make yourself scarce unless I summon you. Is that clear? Perfectly, sir, Kate replied, her voice a flat, neutral tone. For the next 30 minutes, a fragile sense of normalcy settled over table 1. But the hum of vigilance in the back of Kate's mind was growing louder. It was a sixth sense honed in the dusty streets of Kabul and the rain-slicked alleys of Eastern Europe. The threat appeared in the form of 5 men who entered the restaurant in a staggered sequence over 10 minutes. To anyone else, they were just 5 more wealthy patrons. But Kate saw what others missed. The first 2 were seated near the center, giving them a clear view of almost every table, including Finch's. They ordered expensive wine, but their glasses remained mostly full. Their conversations seemed animated, but their eyes were cold, constantly sweeping the room. They weren't looking at each other. They were mapping the environment. The third man took a seat at the bar, but his reflection in the mirror gave him a perfect view of Finch's booth and the bodyguard station nearby. The fourth and fifth men took a table near the kitchen entrance, a tactical position controlling a primary exit route. They sat with their backs to the wall, feet flat on the floor, ready to move. Kate felt a cold sweat prickle her neck. This was a professional setup, a classic box-in maneuver. Finch was the target. She needed to warn someone. Making her way towards the bar, Kate passed close to Henderson. "Excuse me," she said, Her voice low and urgent, Henderson's eyes snapped to her. What is it? Your client may be in danger. There are 5 men. They came in separately, but are working together. They're boxing you in. Henderson's expression flickered with condescending amusement. He gave the room a cursory glance. Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but I have been protecting high-value targets for 15 years. These are just customers. Please go back to your duties. You don't understand. Their positioning is tactical. They aren't eating or drinking. They're waiting. Henderson's jaw tightened. The situation is under control. Back off. She was on her own. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She could walk away, slip out the back, and be gone before the first glass shattered. It wasn't her fight. She had left that life behind. Then her eyes fell on the other people in the room. The young couple on their first date. The elderly woman celebrating her birthday. They were all lambs in a slaughterhouse, completely unaware of the wolves that had just locked the doors. She moved back to her station, her mind racing. The layout of the restaurant became a schematic in her head. The distance between tables, the weight of a water pitcher, the length of a steak knife, the boiling water in the pasta station. Everything became a potential weapon. From across the room, she saw the man at the bar nod. A tiny, almost invisible gesture. The trap was about to spring. Kate took a deep breath and began to move, not as a waitress, but as a soldier. The first move was almost silent. The man at the bar slid off his stool, his hand disappearing inside his jacket. Simultaneously, the 2 men by the kitchen stood up, their friendly demeanor vanishing like a mask dropped to the floor. Henderson saw the coordinated movement. "Sir, down," he yelled, shoving Finch lower into the booth. But he was too late. The man from the bar was already on the bodyguard at the entrance. There was no gunshot, just a sickening thud. The bodyguard crumpled, a silver-hilted knife protruding from his neck. Chaos erupted. A woman screamed. Diners scrambled, knocking over chairs and tables. The 2 men from the central table moved on Henderson and the other bodyguard with fluid, terrifying synergy. Within 10 seconds, Finch's entire security detail was neutralized. The remaining 2 men acted as crowd control, pulling out sleek black pistols with suppressors. "Nobody move," one yelled. "Stay on the floor. This does not concern you. We are only here for him." The leader, a tall man with pale, icy eyes, strode towards the booth. "Mr. Finch, a pleasure to finally meet you in person. You will come with us now." Kate had used the initial chaos to her advantage. She moved with purpose, sliding behind the marble-topped bar, crouching low. The bartender was hiding there, trembling. "Call 911, she whispered. "Keep the line open." She took his phone, dialed, and slid it back into his hands. She rose just enough to peer over the bar's edge. The leader was standing over Finch, reaching down to grab his arm. That's when Kate acted. Her hand closed around a heavy bottle of Grey Goose vodka. "Hey," she shouted. The leader turned, his eyes narrowing in annoyance. Kate swung the bottle in a vicious arc with her entire body behind it. It connected with his jaw and cheekbone. The thick glass shattered. He staggered back, roaring in pain. The other 4 men turned their attention to her instantly. The 2 with pistols raised their weapons. They were closing in. 4 trained operators against 1 waitress. But Kate's face was a mask of cold, focused calm. The waitress was gone. In her place stood someone else, a specter from a past filled with blood and shadow. The man with the baton reached her first. He swung the steel weapon at her head. Kate flowed forward under the swing, grabbed his wrist, and drove her elbow upward under his chin. There was a wet cracking sound. She twisted his arm, using his collapsing body as a human shield. Pop. Pop pop. The suppressed shots were soft coughs. 2 holes appeared in the back of his suit. She let him fall and vaulted over the bar. One of the gunmen was already rounding the edge. Kate snatched a cocktail shaker and a steel bar spoon. As he came around the corner, she flung ice and freezing gin directly into his face. He cried out, his aim faltering. In that instant, Kate drove the pointed end of the bar spoon deep into the soft tissue of his throat. He collapsed, choking. Now there were 3 left. The second gunman had a clear line of sight, but the chaos made for a difficult shot. Kate grabbed a linen tablecloth and flung it towards him, then charged toward the kitchen. She burst through the swinging doors just as he fired. Inside the kitchen, she commanded the staff, "Stay down." Her eyes scanned the room. A rack of knives, boiling water, Heavy cast iron pans. Two men burst in after her. Kate ripped a heavy iron skillet from its hook. As one lunged, she met his charge with a full-force swing. The pan connected with his head with a resonant clang. He dropped like a stone. The second gunman hesitated. Kate grabbed a large stock pot of boiling pasta water and heaved it. The scalding water hit his face and chest. He screamed, dropping his pistol. Kate moved past him, grabbing the fallen weapon. She checked the magazine in a single practiced motion. She was armed. She stepped back into the dining room, the pistol held low and ready. The only one left standing was Nikolai, holding a shard of broken glass against Finch's throat. "Drop the gun, or he dies," Nikolai snarled. Kate raised the pistol, sighting down the barrel. "You made 3 mistakes," Kate said, her voice steady. "First, you assumed your target's security was the only threat in the room." She took a small step to her left. "Second, you underestimated the waitress." Another step. "And third, you assumed I cared if he lives." In the split second his brain processed that, she fired. The bullet struck his right shoulder. His arm went dead, the shard falling. Before he could fall, she closed the distance and struck him with the pistol butt. He collapsed, unconscious, silence. The only sounds were soft weeping and distant sirens. Kate stood over the last attacker, her chest rising and falling in controlled breaths. She was no longer a waitress. She was a weapon. The sirens grew to an overwhelming roar. NYPD officers swarmed the scene. Kate stood in the center, the pistol held safely pointed at the floor. A grizzled detective named Morrison approached. "NYPD, I need you to place the weapon on the floor." Kate complied smoothly. Morrison's gaze lingered. "You the one who did all this?" "They were a threat to the civilians," Kate stated simply. Finch stumbled forward. "She saved us. She saved everyone. They were going to kill me. She took them all down. All 5 of them." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "We'll need your statement, Mississippi." "She doesn't need to give you a statement," Finch declared. "She needs a medal. Whatever she needs, whatever she wants, it's hers." Kate's voice was flat. "I don't have a legal team. I'll give a statement." She looked at Finch, her eyes cold. "I don't want anything from you. But I owe you my life," he stammered. "The debt is paid," Kate replied. "They attacked, I defended." End of story. She spent the next 2 hours giving a carefully curated statement. She was Catherine Pierce, a waitress. In the chaos, she got lucky. She used what was available. She omitted every detail that spoke of her training. Morrison listened, but his eyes told a different story. A skillet, a tablecloth, a bar spoon, and a pot of boiling water. You took out 4 trained men with kitchen supplies. And you put a bullet in the leader's shoulder from 20 feet away while he was holding a hostage. That's not adrenaline, Miss Pierce. That's a skill set. It was a chaotic situation, Kate maintained. Right. Morrison grunted, unconvinced. There's something about you. It's like I've seen your file. Or maybe a file that was supposed to have your name on it, but was just a black rectangle of redacted ink. Kate's blood ran cold. I'm just a waitress, detective. There's nothing else to know. For now, maybe. You're free to go, Miss Pierce. But don't leave town. As Kate walked out, the maitre d' stopped her, pressing thick envelopes of cash into her hand. She pushed back the larger one. "I'll take my pay. The rest isn't necessary." Across the street, in a blacked-out Escalade, Alistair Finch watched her walk away. He was on the phone. "I don't care what it takes. I want to know who she is. Not who she says she is, who she really is. Use every resource. Find her and put a surveillance team on her. She saved my life, and I have a feeling she's now in more danger than ever before." He hung up. The men she had taken down were not common criminals. They were soldiers in a silent war. And Catherine Pierce had just painted a massive target on her own back. The first thing Kate did was disappear. Within 12 hours, Catherine Pierce ceased to exist. She cleared out her apartment, leaving nothing behind. She wiped her laptop and phone with a data destruction program. She closed her bank account, taking the cash. She was a ghost again. She found a room in a rundown part of Queens, paid 3 months cash to a landlord who didn't ask for ID. She knew they would come looking, not the police, but the people who had hired those 5 men. Meanwhile, Alistair Finch was unleashing the full power of his technological empire. The search for Catherine Pierce became top priority for Ethereum Dynamics' elite data analysis team. For 3 weeks, they found nothing. Her history was a patchwork of dead ends, cash-in-hand jobs at places that had since closed down. No college records, no substantial credit history. It's impossible, Finch's new head of security, Peterson, reported. The absence of information is itself a construct. This is professional-grade identity sanitization, government level. Finch grew more obsessed. He rewatched the security footage 100 times, studying her movements, the cold efficiency. This was not a civilian. Finally, they got a break. A junior analyst ran Kate's face against a vast dark web database of leaked government files. It found a single match, a heavily redacted U.S. Army Special Operations file from 7 years ago. Most of it was blacked out, but a few words remained visible. Unit, Ghost. Disavowed. Operation Nightingale, terminated. Ghost isn't a unit name, Peterson explained grimly. It's a designation, a solo operator used for missions the government needs to deny. They're trained in everything. Infiltration, black ops, wet work. Operation Nightingale, I've heard whispers. A catastrophic mission in Syria. An entire team wiped out. Official story was friendly fire. The whisper said it was a betrayal. Kate wasn't just ex-military. She was a disavowed black ops soldier, a woman the government itself had tried to erase. That Finch's corporate intelligence identified the attackers as mercenaries tied to Argus International, Ethereum's biggest and most ruthless competitor. Argus operated in darker corners, selling military-grade cyber warfare tools and espionage services to the highest bidder. It was corporate abduction, not assassination, Peterson concluded. They didn't want to kill you. They wanted what's inside you. Finch instinctively touched a small scar behind his ear. Project Chimera, his life's work. A biointegrated data key, a subdermal implant containing the source code to Ethereum's next-generation AI, so advanced it could destabilize the global balance of power to be saving him. Kate had prevented the theft of one of the most powerful technological weapons on the planet. Argus would see her as an enemy operator, a threat that needed neutralizing. His surveillance team finally got a hit, facial recognition on a city bus in Queens. They tracked her to a dilapidated apartment building. Finch knew he had to warn her. He had dragged her back into the world she fought so hard to escape. Finch found her apartment and knocked. The door opened a few inches, held by a chain. One of Kate's eyes appeared in the gap. She looked different, hair cut shorter, dyed brown, no makeup. What do you want, Finch? I need to talk to you. It's about the men who attacked us. She checked the hallway behind him, then opened the door. You have 5 minutes. The apartment was Spartan, a mattress, a folding chair, a table with a laptop, and a packed duffel bag. This wasn't a home. It was a temporary safe house. They weren't random thugs, Finch began. They were mercenaries working for Argus International, my main competitor. They were after technology one-half. By stopping them, you interfered in a major corporate espionage operation. Argus doesn't tolerate interference. I figured it was something like that. They know who you are, Catherine. Or rather, who you were. U.S. Army Special Operations. Unit Ghost. Operation Nightingale. At the mention of Nightingale, her mask cracked. A wave of intense pain flashed across her face before being suppressed. You have no idea what you're talking about. I know you're a ghost, and you've been running for a long time. But Argus has resources you can't imagine. They will hunt you. And what do you propose I do? Call the police. I want to help you. I have resources. Security, safe houses all over the world. I can protect you. I owe you that. Kate let out a harsh laugh. Protect me. You're the reason I'm in this mess. Your world, your fight. I was fine. I was invisible. You, Alistair Finch, are a walking disaster. And I was just a waitress who got caught in your light. I know, he said quietly. But the monsters are here now. We can either face them separately or together. She stared at him, her jaw set. She had run for 7 years, and it had all been for nothing. As she stood there, a tiny dot of red light appeared on the wall behind her head. Finch's eyes widened. A laser sight. A sniper. Get down, he roared, lunging forward, shoving her. The window exploded inward. Time slowed. Finch felt searing white-hot pain rip through his shoulder as the bullet meant for Kate's heart tore through him instead. He crashed to the floor. The last thing he saw was Kate's face. The waitress was gone. In their place was the ghost of Operation Nightingale. Her eyes were chips of ice, her expression one of absolute lethal fury. She was already moving, grabbing her duffel bag with one hand and his arm with the other, dragging him away from the window. The hunt was on. Catherine Pierce, the ghost from a forgotten war, is now firmly in the crosshairs of an enemy that never forgets. Her quiet life is shattered, and her fate is now chained to the very man she saved. What happens when the world's most dangerous people hunt a woman who is even more dangerous than they are? That's a story for another time.